Hey guys, welcome back to Mo's Game Table. Today we're going to take a look inside the Mogadishu 1993. This is a game designed by David Kershaw and is published by White Dog Games. This is a game that I saw on the White Dog site a while back, and finally it is available. Wasn't sure exactly what the game entailed other than it was a solitaire game. It was set in Mogadishu. Everyone knows that. It's famous for the Black Hawk Down book and movie, and I just wanted to see a little bit more about what the game was about. Couldn't find that out, so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go buy it because I'm always happy with games from David Kershaw and White Dog Games. They really do make some fantastic games. Pretty straightforward, easy to get on the table, and a lot of fun to play. And I really dig this cover. It's simple, stark, and compelling, which draws you right into the subject matter. So let's take a look at the back of the box and see what this game is all about. The Moog is a solitaire game simulating the military actions in 1993 by the United Nations in Mogadishu against the Somali National Alliance. The game includes a number of exciting scenarios, including, of course, the Task Force Ranger mission, famously depicted in the 1999 book and 2001 film, both titled Black Hawk Down. You control UN forces against the SNA, which is run by the game's artificial intelligence rules. There are 6 historical missions. In addition, you can create your own special missions using a random setup generator to produce a different scenario each time. Do you take an extra helicopter gunship, or would extra boots on the ground be more useful? Maybe an additional truck is essential. The choice is yours. In any event, the SNA will attempt to thwart you at every turn in deadly urban combat. You see an example of the map and the counters here. Game features Somali forces, snipers, militia, RPGs, and technicals. UN forces, you have Delta Force operators, Ranger Chalks, Humvees, combat search and rescue, UN relief convoys and UN air support, casualties and roadblocks, and then optional features including AC-130 gunships and random events. The game components, you get one 22 by 17-inch map, 88 double-sided counters, one quick reference sheet, and one 16-page rulebook. So let's take a look inside and see what we get. We have our sheet of counters, the rule book, quick reference sheet, example of play, and our map. So let's set up the map and take a closer look at the game. And here's a look at the map that comes with the game. It might seem a little confusing at first, but it's actually not. It's very straightforward once you understand the breakdown. All of these brown areas here, these are the built-up urban areas. And this is where all the buildings are. Then between them, you have the roads. It's as simple as that. The blue boxes around the outside, those are the UN bases. You start off with the stadium at the top right. Then you have base number 2, 3, and 4. The bottom right here, we have the UN casualties box. Another box here for UN assets. Then we have the tracks over here on the right-hand side, starting off with the SNA intel, which is what's going to tell you whether the SNA can mobilize or not. You have your helo support track for your helicopter support. Then we have the turn track. That's it. It's really that simple. The only thing to keep in mind when it comes to movement is we have these built-up areas here, like 31, 32, 33. They're all numbered. And this is broken down into a square with 4 different boxes inside. You cannot traverse diagonally. You have to move around in straight lines. So to go from 33 to 31, you cannot move diagonally. You have to go straight up in 32 and then across into 31 and then vice versa. It's that easy. That's the only thing you have to keep in mind. When it comes to the streets, though, you can move diagonally fine. That's not an issue. So you can go from 34 across the street over into this set of buildings and then work your way into 43, 44, and 45. Those are the only things that you need to understand when it comes to the map. Other than that, pretty straightforward. And it's a great thing that they did it the way they did because urban terrain is very dense. And this is a great way of just simplifying it and making it easier for the player to traverse in their head and with their counters on the map. Next, we'll take a look at the player aid that comes with the game. On the front, we have the quick reference sheet. Starts off with the setup, gives you a breakdown of how to organize your forces, place your prisoner in the target area, set up the SNA forces, deploy your assault force, and then CSAR deployment. Gives you all the steps for combat here at the bottom. Then on the back, we have all of the phases for the turn order. And the second player aid card is actually an illustrated example of play, giving you different steps for each of the phases in an illustrated manner. And that carries over to the back of the sheet, which will give you a great reference, not only during play, but while you're reading the rulebook, you can see how each of the phases plays out. And we'll take a look at the counter sheet that comes with the game. Only 88 counters, so low counter density game. We have the Somali forces at the top. We have militia, SNA snipers, and then some technicals. Below that, we have the relief convoy and roadblocks, as well as some administrative counters. And at the bottom, we have the U.S. forces. Delta teams, Ranger Chalks, platoons, Humvees, trucks, CSAR, and a pair of APCs will round out the U.S. forces. And lastly, we'll take a look at the rules. This is a 16-page full-color rulebook. On the front cover, we have the table of contents listing out all the rules and their associated page numbers. On the inside of the front cover, we have the introduction, and we have a breakdown of your components, all explained to you here, the map, the counters. Remember, I was talking about the map when it comes to movement. The clarifications on that are right here, explaining when you go into the building areas, you've got to go in straight lines, no diagonals, but when you get on the roads, you can move any way you want. Then we have setting up the game, organizing your forces, placing the targets, set up initial SNA forces. The same thing that we saw on the player aid card is all explained to you here. So when you read through the rules, the player aid card is all you're really going to need. You're not going to need to reference the rules here, it looks like. On the left-hand side, we have some more information, a sample force, why are there no counters for the Delta or Ranger helicopters, what's a draw container, and generating a random area of the map. All explained to you on the left-hand side. Same thing with the example on the left-hand side here. Then you get to the rule text to the right of that. Combat section, same as we saw with the player aid card. This is just going to go into greater detail. Then we get to playing the game, turn order, Somali reinforcement phase, UN air support phase, Somali action phase, Somali recovery phase, then the UN action phase, UN relief phase. Then we get to the scenarios on page 12. So not a lot of rules prior to that, like 12 pages of rules. A few of those pages are informational, not even just rules, but informational. So pretty light rule set, should be pretty easy to digest and get on the table, and that's fantastic. We start off with the first scenario, Radio Mogadishu, which is considered the hardest along with Black Hawk Down. So the first and last scenarios, game is going to be bookended with the two toughest scenarios. Bloody Monday is number 2, Legato Compound is number 3, Russian Embassy, and then Otto's Garage. And then we finish off with the final scenario, Irene, Black Hawk Down. Then we have a hypothetical raid. This is a hypothetical raid. As such, it uses a more randomized setup to produce a different scenario each time. Then we have some optional rules that you can add in for AC-130s, APCs, UN coordination, and a tow barrage. And that carries over to the back of the rulebook for vulnerable heli support and random events. And that is a look at everything you get inside of the Moog, Mogadishu, Somalia, 1993. This is a game designed by David Kershaw and is published by White Dog Games. Like I said at the beginning, when I saw this on the White Dog site, I was like, I know what this is about, Mogadishu. It's going to definitely spark my interest. Tried reading about it, but there was no information, but it didn't matter. I was buying it either way. I knew it was David Kershaw. He's done some really fun games, so I had pretty high confidence this was going to be a good one. So I got a copy of it in, and I'm just now trying to catch up on stuff that I'm a little behind in, and wanted to show an unboxing, and then I'm going to try to get this one on the table either later tonight or this weekend, so that way I can get a quick playthrough and a good feel on how this game works. But really excited to play this one. This is an interesting topic, and I want to see how well it games out. And don't worry, I will be sharing my thoughts in the future, because modern stuff definitely gets me excited. Well, I hope that helps you guys out if you've been curious about this one. If you have any comments or questions, post them down below. Thanks for tuning in, guys. See you next time.